Hello, everyone. If you could please take your seats. Hello, and welcome to the Entrepreneurship panel. My name is Catherine Chase, and I will be your moderator for today's session. This afternoon, or I guess this morning, we have representatives from a variety of organizations who are here to talk to you and share their expertise and insight. But before we get started, I'd like to go over a few housekeeping rules. First and foremost, in case of any emergency, please exit through the nearest door. So we have 2 doors up there as well as a door over there. Please make sure your cell phone is turned off or at the very least muted. We kindly ask that you remain seated during the entire session. It is 1 hour and 15 minutes, so we will be ending at 11:45. Finally, as many of you know, this is a Learning Passport eligible activity. You need to make sure that the survey that I just handed out while you walked in is completed before you come up to get your stamp. Please also make sure that your Learning Passport Part 1 is filled out in entirety, so it should just ask for your name, the date, your signature, and the name of this activity, which is the Entrepreneurship panel. Let's get started. So starting with you, Costa, can you please introduce yourself, your position in your organization, and in addition, your education?
So my name is Costa Ellis. I'm the owner of the Ella Restaurants. It used to be called OPA at one time. We opened in 2000, and since 2000, we've had several other restaurants. We've had a third Ella downtown, which we closed in 2009. I've been in the business of fine dining restaurant, and we've also owned clubs, and so I'm in the entertainment business. But as it is right now, I run 2 locations, one in Dartmouth Crossing and one in Bears Lake. 180 seats and 140 seats. I've been doing it since 2000. I graduated St. Mary's University with finance marketing in 1985. I had a short stint in the banking industry, that's my finance degree. And then I worked with Moosehead Breweries in marketing for about 10 years. And that led me into my venture as an entrepreneur since 2000, and since then it's been a roller coaster. It's certainly one that I've really enjoyed, and hopefully you guys will have some questions for me later on.
Thank you.
Thanks.
Sarah, if you want to go.
Perfect. Hi, everyone. I'm Sarah Wilson. I'm the owner of Metro Ladies Golf. I'm a golf professional by trade, and for the last 20 years, been working in the golf industry. But my passion really is teaching. So I'm teaching a lot of ladies and beginners. And Metro Ladies, it's a membership club of women in Halifax and Dartmouth, organizing golf games, retreats, half-day schools, traveling the province and throughout Atlantic Canada. Started my company back in 2014, so 2013, heading into my 4th season coming up. What I found over the last 4 years is, it's really become, it is a business for me. It's my full-time job, even in the off season. But it's really become sort of a community of women, and that's what keeps me going and gets me up every morning. So anyway, we'll chat with you later. Thanks.
If you want to go ahead, Chris.
Right. Introduce myself. Hi, everyone. My name is Christopher Webb, and I am one half of the ownership group of Pavia Gallery, Espresso Bar and Cafe. We started with one contemporary art gallery and espresso bar centrally located in the middle of Herring Cove, Nova Scotia. And from there, we grew into a spot in the Halifax Central Library. We have 2 locations in the Halifax Central Library. And we recently opened another place at the Art Gallery of Nova Scotia. It says I'm supposed to tell you what my position is. I guess technically I'm just one of the owners, but I think it's important to say the other owner is my life partner, and also my business partner, Victoria Folger. So as you're hearing me speak today, there is another big half of the organization that isn't represented up here. So I just think it's important to know that I'm part of a duo. So I look forward to talking with you today.
Go ahead.
Hi, I'm Debbie Spencer, CEO and co-founder of Sufata Software Solutions, Inc. I also have another half, who's our technical co-founder, who's not here today, John Cox. We started the company together in 2014 as a data conversion consulting firm, servicing clients primarily in the eastern seaboard of the United States in the property taxation market. We've since grown to a bigger team than just the two of us, and we have a software product that we're beginning to commercialize going into 2017, and some additional offerings in database administration services. So essentially what we do is we're a company that helps other companies manage their data, leverage its power, and take care of their databases.
Perfect. Moving on to the next question, Sarah. What led you to the position that you're in today? What was your education, your job experience, whether you had co-op, professional connections, etc.?
I was unemployed for a time in my life, but having worked in the golf industry, I think I worked 14 years at Ashburn Golf Club, a private club in the city, and really through when I was kind of trying to figure out what I was going to do with the other half of my life, I really looked to some of people I knew in the golf industry, had a lot of meetings with them, and tried to sort of reinvent myself on my own, apart from the typical golf club. So with that, I have started from picking up golf balls on the driving range, to mowing grass, to finally teaching and running a busy golf club. But also with education, I took a BA at Dalhousie University. I took a business certificate course here at the Mount. So I think it's really been a combination of my work experience, my education, and again, that period in my life where I was unemployed and sort of had to figure out what I was going to do. And then also drawing in some of the relationships of people I'd met at the golf course who were also probably business owners, sort of leaders in our city, and sort of look to them for some sort of light bulb that might go off and give me an idea. So,
Thank you. Chris?
Thanks. So I'm going to just try to make sure I answer all the questions. So I'm going to refer to them. The first one I see here is, because I'll become tangential very quickly. What led you to the position you're in today? Everything. Everything that I've ever done has led to the position I'm in, and everything I've ever learned I use on a daily basis as my life now, as partly being an entrepreneur. So I'm going to answer the questions quick and then sort of try to sum up. What was my education and job experience? So my education was, I went to school in the city here in Halifax. I did my political science degree at St. Mary's University because I thought I needed to do something practical. And what is more practical than a political science degree? It has so many uses. Thank you for the laugh next to me. I appreciate that. Because what I really wanted to be was an artist and a painter. That's what I really loved. From the age of 3, I wanted to be an artist. But everyone knows you can't make a living as an artist. They're called starving artists for a reason. So again, chose the practical path, political science. But I can look back on it now and say that my time at St. Mary's, Costa and I actually went to St. Mary's together, but at different times. I just want to be much older than I am, Costa. Much older. And it's on record now too. Anyway, I missed him by about 4 years. Everything I learned throughout my career are things that I use on a daily basis. So what led me to the position I'm in today? I can say basically 100% it was always committing to doing what I really wanted to do. So after I finished university, I got recruited through the Premier's office to run a civil service internship program called the Career Starts program. And I realized about 6 months in that not only did I really want to help recruit people into the civil service, but I just didn't want to be in a career in the civil service. What I really wanted to do was paint. So I left my job, and I moved to southern Italy, where my family is originally from. My grandmother's last name was Pavia, so that's where the name of our business comes from. So I went to my ancestral homeland of Italy to paint. And as years went on, every time walls were put in front of me for being an artist, I kept trying to go around them and through them. So everything where I am today is based on trying to continuously fault towards being a painter. So I can say now that Pavia Gallery, Espresso Bar and Cafe, well, why is it even called Pavia Gallery? Why in Herring Cove would we open up a place called Pavia Gallery? And the reason we did is because we opened it as a contemporary art gallery, a place, and right now we represent 16 artists from around the province and Canada, and a few international as well. But continuously, as years go on, I continue to paint, and recently was invited to show at the Art Gallery of Nova Scotia as one of 28 artists selected from our province to represent what's happening in contemporary art right now in our province. So as we're sort of answering the question, or I'm answering the question, touch on my education and background, the reality is my education had very little to do with where I am today, but at the same time had everything to do with how I ended up. I feel like I didn't answer that question at all. Anyway, thank you.
Thank you, Chris. Debbie?
Okay, this might be the political science end of the table. I too, yeah, oh, there we go. It's the leading degree here. I have a bit of a winding path for where I've ended up, probably not the typical academic route you would expect for someone who now owns an IT company. I took a Bachelor of Political Science, followed that up with a Master's in International Relations, and pursued my dream to work internationally. Went to Geneva, Switzerland, and worked for the United Nations High Commissioner of Refugee Office for 7 months. It was a fantastic travel experience, an opportunity to see the world. Quickly realized that being a bureaucrat diplomat was not the right career path for me. Came back to Nova Scotia to wait for a cute boy to graduate from Acadia, who later became my husband, so that all worked out well. While I was waiting, I took a long shot and applied to a job with an IT company in Halifax because I thought it sounded really interesting. To my surprise, more so probably than anybody else's, they actually offered me the job. And that was really the shaping factor and what's led me to the path that I'm on now. I did realize quickly that I needed to go back to school and get some more training in that field if I was going to be effective. So I took an master's level IT solution certificate from St. Mary's, and that kind of helped give me the technical background that I needed to succeed there. Although I don't use my academics on a regular basis, I certainly use everything I learned in that program. The analysis skills are invaluable to what I do now, decision making, writing. I'm much surprised there is actually a lot of writing involved in the technical disciplines. So as I worked through my career, I always knew that I had an entrepreneurial bug. I came from an entrepreneurial family, and I knew someday I wanted to have my own business. Couldn't figure out for the life of me what that was going to be. Tossed around everything from ideas of opening a kids gym, which then other people went and did it, to restaurants, but there's lots of those and I really didn't know anything about the industry. Kept toying around ideas, and then finally I had the moment of, I love what I do in my day job. I need to find a way to make that an actual venture of my own. So I partnered up with a former coworker who I think is one of the most technical, brilliant minds I've ever worked with. We shared some common interest in the data migration market, and we decided we were going to take the brave leap and go off on our own. Certainly wish I had taken some business courses along the way. They would have served me very well in what I'm doing now, but I'm getting more of the real world business education of learn as I go.
Thank you. Go ahead.
My turn. Since I'm a little bit older, I'll have a longer story, I think. So I'm going to go a little further back. I was born in Greece, 1974. There was a Turkish invasion into Cyprus, which is where I lived. So we left as refugees as a family, and we went directly to Toronto. So I lived in Toronto till I was about, I guess, grade 11, grade 12. Then came to St. Mary's University. My career path, I was very much into sports. I always wanted to become a professional soccer player, which eventually I did. Once graduating St. Mary's University, I took a finance marketing degree. went into business with the Royal Bank. It wasn't what I was looking for. It was a little bit too many parameters. I was way out in left and right field all over the place and had a lot of ideas all the time. Eventually, I was offered a position due to my sports background. I did manage to go back to Greece. I played professional soccer for about a year, and then I was asked to enroll in military service, and I chose to leave that side of it. Came back to Canada, and I was offered a position because of my sports background. I feel working with Moosehead breweries and promoting and marketing. I enjoyed that very much. It lasted about 10 years. After that, there was a stint where Moosehead Breweries was moving head offices, and I was given an opportunity to go to New Brunswick, which didn't really entice me that much. And a friend of mine who we went to school together at St. Mary's, he came to St. Mary's to play football, and I came to play soccer. We've always talked, living in Toronto, we've always talked about the Greek restaurants on the Danforth. If anybody's familiar, it's what they call Greek Town, and we felt that this was missing in Halifax, and we've always talked about it on Sunday afternoons, when we hang around and, wish we could be back there and so on. So when I was in between jobs, he basically just said, hey, why don't we do this? He had already started the Argyle Bar and Grill, the Graduate before that. It dates a little before you guys. So he's already had a couple of good experiences in the restaurant business. Incidentally, my first restaurant job was when I was 13. I worked downtown Toronto, and 13 to whenever, dishwashing and making burgers and working at submarine shops, Subway shops, or whatever you call them today. So I've always been in the industry, but I've always sort of looked at the owners thinking, hey, they lead a nice lifestyle, because we'd often visit people and they own restaurants. Immigrants, the easiest thing to do is to sort of open up shop, work 24 hours a day, and because it doesn't really require a lot of background or knowledge of the language and so on. So a lot of people that we knew were sort of following that track, and they seemed to be doing really well. Nice cars, nice homes, and I said, it'd be kind of neat to own and eventually, so when we started the first restaurant in 2000 with my partner, 2004 we opened a second location of 7 Wine Bar, which was an award-winning Wine Spectator wine bar. In 2005 we opened Mosaic Social Dining, which was bringing the tapas world or small plates into Halifax on Argyle Street. In 2007, we opened the second location of Opa. 2008, the third location of Opa in Dartmouth Crossing. 2011, we converted the 7 Wine Bar into G Lounge, and we're always operating at the time the Argyle Bar and Grill as well. We had managed to purchase the real estate at the Argyle, that corner on Argyle and Blowers. So we started dabbling a little bit into the real estate side of it. So that's how I sort of got into it by luck. I kind of wanted to be in it, but also never really. I've always planned on running a company, and until a few years later, one of my friends, we were having this conversation. He said to me, this is what you wanted to do? I said, no, I thought I've always wanted to run this company, employees, and and he goes, but you are. And then, we stopped to realize that at the time we had 6 restaurants, we had about 300 employees, and I was running a company, and it was my company, and I was an employee of me. So I enjoyed that part of it. I don't regret it. It's a very tough business, and I'm not sure if I would recommend anyone to get into it. Or if you do, make sure you have some thick skin. My education that prepared me for it, I think, like Chris has said, anything and everything that I have done has prepared me for what I do today, and I learn on a daily basis from everyone that works with us. And all sorts of experiences. Currently I'm the president of the Restaurant Association of Nova Scotia. I have been on and off for the last 16, 17 years. I have been president for about 10 of them. I've acted as Nova Scotia Soccer League president. I was president of Soccer Nova Scotia. I was president of the Greek community. And I'm saying all these things because I think it's important that you know as students to get involved. I've coached and I've played soccer and I've coached at the highest level, and even now I coach my son who's 12. I've been coaching them since they were 5 or 6, and that I learn a lot from them and from the parents and from managing, youth teams and what the differences are in managing, senior top teams in Canada. I think I'll stop right here because I could go on. I think we run out of time.
Thank you so much. You have all mentioned different people in your lives or different parts of your lives that have influenced you to move to where you are. Have you ever had a mentor? And if so, can you describe the relationship and how they've helped you throughout your career? And we can start with you, Chris, if you don't mind.
Great. Have I ever had a mentor? No. I've tried. There's been certain programs set up over the years that I was involved with, and they'd set you up with a mentor. It was sort of part of it, but it never worked out. I mean, in terms of what I want to do for a living, my career path was sort of always very arbitrary. I don't feel there's a lot of people. I never had an intention of opening up a cafe, so I never went out and sought a mentor. But let me speak to what I think has helped quite a bit. So, do I have mentors in life and people that I look for guidance? Well, I'm a painter. My grandmother was a painter, so up until the age of 16, she was very, very influential in my life, and I didn't realize at the time, but she was absolutely a mentor. She taught me a love of painting, which now that I have a daughter, I try to teach her a love of painting, but she has loves for other things, but it's not painting, and that's okay. So I really value that. Do I have a mentor currently? Well, with my partner Victoria, we have very different skill sets, but she's someone on a daily basis that I look to for guidance. I'm sure she would say the same thing for me. We really, when you're in relationships, one of two things can happen. You can be in a relationship with someone and you find them super attractive and you really love being with them, but you kind of downward spiral together. Or you can be in a relationship with someone and you can upward spiral together. And that's what Victoria and I do for each other. I think we really bring out the best in each other and really challenge each other, but we challenge each other to become better people. So I can't discount that. But I do want to say there's people over the years that I've found really inspiring that I wouldn't necessarily consider them mentors, but I don't want to discount how important they've been over the years. And sometimes small things. I remember boxing in my 20s. I was terrible. I'm a terrible boxer. Most of my boxing stories involve really amazing boxers that beat me up. There was a coach they had for a while, and his name was Chris Clark, and he's a famous boxer in Nova Scotia. And I'll never forget Chris looking at me and going, "You're just lazy. You're just lazy. You're so lazy." And I was so angry because he called me lazy. And I was in my mid-20s. But the fact was I was just lazy. I could run my mouth. My mouth was doing all the work, but I wasn't putting the work in. There's no amount of telling someone that you're doing sit-ups that when they see you do sit-ups can prove that you've done sit-ups before. And he called it. So I haven't seen Chris in 15 years. And I know he struggles in life with some different things, but I look back at Chris and he's someone that was one of those moments. There's someone else. And one of the reasons why I agreed to come on this panel today is Costa Ellis. I remember when I was trying to figure out my life and I was doing some video things and I managed to sit down and videotape Costa Ellis. And I could hold on to 3 things he said during that video that Victoria and I, when we're almost in tears, we'd look back and go, yeah, but I remember what Costa Ellis said that day. I'm going to tell you those 3. 2 of them were things that he said and one of them is something he does. One is the immigrant mentality you talked to me about. And you talked about it right now where you were purchasing real estate. And one of the things we were really sure on when we were going to start Pavia in Herring Cove, the only reason we took the big risk to do it was we purchased the building. So we knew that, okay, if this fails, we can always rent the space to somebody else. And if that fails completely, we can always sell that building and get our money back. And it was, we opened a contemporary gallery espresso bar in Herring Cove. I mean, the odds of that working were very low, and we even knew it. But we held on to that. So that was one of those nuggets from Costa. The other thing, I remember Costa saying about a thick skin. And he said there was times he had to go borrow for payroll, just to make payroll sometimes in those early years. And he put on his best suit and he went on and did that. I remember. I'll never forget it. And I just thought, holy cow. How do you have the audacity just to do that? But he did, because Costa was a fighter. And he would go in there and he would do those things. And then the other thing I remember about Costa was in the middle of all of this, knowing how busy he was, I remember driving down on Dunbrack one day and seeing this little dot running down Dunbrack. Now, if you see anyone running on Dunbrack, there's no sidewalks on Dunbrack, so you're out for the long haul. You're out for a run if you're running on Dunbrack. And I got closer and closer, and it was Costa. And in the middle of all this stuff, he was still taking care of himself, because he knew that if you take care of yourself and you take care of your mind, that's going to give you that internal strength to keep doing all those other things. And even now, I sometimes think, well, there's someone, Costa's out doing it. I'm not as busy as Costa. I can go out and do it too. And those are one of those things. And, I think and I could go through, there's a lot of people over the years that you kind of take these little things from. So I would say I have dozens and dozens of mentors, just not one in particular. Sorry for rambling a bit on that.
Thank you. Costa, I don't know if you wanted to reply or if we wanted to move on to Debbie, or? We good? Okay, Debbie?
I'm up. I've been very fortunate to have a number of stellar mentors over my career. Early in my development, the mentors kind of found me. I'm still not sure exactly what they saw, but maybe some semblance of their younger self. And they reached out and helped me in a number of ways, guiding me through what my next step should be in my career path, to opening doors that I certainly would not have been able to open on my own. Even my first job, straight out of university with the United Nations, that's like winning the lotto. I would never have gotten that job without my thesis advisor at Acadia, who really mentored me for the whole 4 years that I was there. So I quickly learned in my career, mentors are invaluable in what they can, how they can shape you, just someone to bounce ideas off of, and the doors they can open for you. In my later years, and particularly as I moved towards opening my own business, I realized I need to now start finding the mentors, and I need to be very strategic in what I'm looking for in those mentors to help me get the pieces of my thought processes that I'm currently missing. And I have 3 mentors that I converse with regularly, in addition to my business partner and my husband, who are obviously my 2 greatest idea bouncers. But we have a few others that we stay in touch with and use on a regular basis. And you will be amazed at how willing people are to help you, especially when you're starting out. And now I give back a little in that same way, although I'm certainly not as knowledgeable as them. The one thing I have found with mentors over the years is you'll get all kinds of different pieces of advice and different personalities, and you have to find what works for you and be able to filter out some of the advice that you're going to get. And when you're looking for the mentor, the ones who have worked the best for me are not my cheerleaders who are like, go, you can do it, great idea, run with it. It was the ones who challenged me and said, have you thought about that? Have you ever considered? My recommendation would be look for those ones, not the ones who are just going to champion you, that's important too, but the ones who are going to challenge your ideas and help you work through to get the best outcome.
Thank you. Costa?
I think it's, if you already know where you're headed and you have an idea as to what you want to do, which is not necessarily where I was at the time, then you could say, this is what I want to be, and you find somebody in that industry, or you start working with them, and then you mentor them, and then you see how their work ethics and the way they think and so on. Having said that, and I'm sure that I'm probably, like Chris has mentioned, is in every part of my life I had a mentor. But I couldn't really narrow down and say he's my mentor, she's my mentor. But it's this, a mentor is this thing that you're putting together about experiences or people that you've met in the past that you want to emulate. So I never really had a mentor, but I've had a lot of mentors that I've taken things from or I've admired. And I think one of the biggest ones is probably my father. He's a minister. He's not a business person. But he's 80 years old now, and he works hard every day. And he's very moral, and he's very, the way he goes on about life is real, and you know, and hard work and getting things done, I think he'd probably be the one.
Perfect. Thank you. Sarah?
Good. I think starting out, same experience. My mentors were people that I looked to sort of get answers that I needed and certainly helped me along my way. And I remember back working at Ashburn, I mean, I was just sort of an entry-level position, but there was a member, and we would meet regularly for lunch here and there, or maybe a round of golf. And he really sort of planted this seed of this business back 20 years ago. And I kind of put it on a shelf for a while, but without his ideas and what I as a female could do in the business, I think he was my very first mentor on my road to owning my own business. And since then, I've had a few others. When I first started, the first day I said, okay, I'm in business. I went out and I sort of was looking for a mentor, and I looked at it from, I need someone to tell me what to do. You know, being so new and having all these decisions to make, I sort of went out and looked for someone, and that's, I didn't get that from that person, and you won't get those things from mentors. They're not going to answer your questions and do the hard work for you. But what I realized, and he's sort of an experienced mentor, was he was giving me the answers. It just wasn't in the sort of educational way that I was used to. So he's sort of shaped the whole idea of this organic growing business that you can build, being true to yourself and your brand. And I also have my cheerleaders, which are a lot of my members that go out and get me new clients. But I also have a really good friend in the industry who started his own teaching business and really showed PGA pros in Canada that you could make a good living teaching golf. And he's since opened schools in the US and sort of developed players more in the coaching role. So I communicate with him regularly through, I think, Facebook and whenever we get a chance to get on the phone with each other. But so I think it's important to have a mentor in the industry that's been through it. He really forged the path for what Canadian pros can do in the business, and so he's really well known in the circles in the States. So I'd say I've had good 3 or 4 mentors. And I think, to Debbie's point, I think it's important now to give back and be a mentor to other people. So I do work regularly with the Center for Women in Business and other sort of networking events I'm involved with, and also being a mentor. I'm the head coach of my son's Adam hockey team. I think I'm the only female coach in the city right now at that level, and I think it's important, not because I might be coaching a girl, it's because I really want to affect the girls that are watching their brothers or sisters and everyone in the stands that it is possible. So those are sort of my experiences.
Very good. The next question is, what is the greatest challenge that you faced in your career thus far? And Debbie, if we could start with you.
I would have to say my greatest challenge I faced this far was getting the courage to start my own business. I had a fantastic, on paper, job with a Fortune 500 company. I had a wonderful salary, benefits, everything you could possibly probably think of right now at this stage when you're getting ready to start your career that you're going to want. I was bored stiff, and I knew that I wanted more, and I particularly knew that I wanted to build something of my own and see where it could go. Took me a good 5 years to actually get the courage to say, I'm going to do this. I'm going to give up a paycheck for the great unknown and hope for the best and believe in myself. So I'd say that was my greatest challenge. I held back far longer than I should have. Now in hindsight, but you have to know when you're ready.
Thank you.
I mean, we face challenges on a daily basis. I can tell you that. I mean, the biggest challenge in the beginning was financing. In my industry, there is no bank that you can go to finance your project. Banks don't look at restaurateurs and restaurant ideas. Anything in hospitality, you need to come up with the money. So in the beginning. And I remember our first venture with my then business partner, it was a little coffee shop, and we dreamt small, and we were small, and we were just making it, and we were just hanging around, and then we shut it down because it wasn't really worth it. So the first project that we did was, this is in 2000, was it was going out and spending about $700,000 in building the restaurant, because we wanted something with atmosphere. We wanted something we wanted to recreate a Greek taverna as it is in Greece, and bring it to the people of Halifax. And it takes a lot of money to be able to put the props up and make it seem the way that it was. So financially, so when we went to the bank looked at us and said, well, you know, we could get about $150,000. So we were about close to $550,000 short. So, and I mean, I was out in the working world for about close to 10 to 15 years, and I just finished paying off my student loan, and I bought a house. So the money was not there, but then it's taking that chance and putting it out there and making sure that it is going to work. So I borrowed money. I got credit cards out, the yin-yangs, and I just borrowed on everything. And we started the project, even when knowing that we couldn't make payments, we still continued with it, hoping that business will be there. And luckily for us, it was. So that was a huge challenge. And then the changing environment is another big challenge. I mean, the changes that keep happening in our industry, in any industry, over the last year by year, it's so huge that you need to adopt, you need to create, you need to be different every time, and in order to survive. So making payroll, like Chris alluded to, is that there was some tough times in 2008 when the economy started to go, and we had 6 restaurants on the go and so many staff, making those tough decisions to close, to open, to not be stubborn enough to get too attached to a property. One of the properties that I had, which I am close to, I'm a sommelier, I know I'm a wine expert. I have my degree in it, and it's a lot of fun, and this was a wine place. It was recognized by the Wine Spectator. It was huge. And that, at the end of the day, it was really tough to be able to make the decision to close a property that was so attached to. And knowing that if I didn't make that decision then I wouldn't be around speaking to you today, because I would probably be working for somebody, helping them realize their dreams instead of, working on mine. So a lot of those challenges are within. Financial was huge, but knowing that you can do it, knowing that you could be miles out and you could still make it home, as every one of us is probably doing at their own businesses today. There's nights that I can tell you that if I wake up at 2 o'clock in the morning, there's no way I'm going back to sleep, because my mind is starting what I need to do the next day and the things that are coming up and so on. I get tired, I fall asleep. If I happen to wake up, well, that's too bad. I'm getting up. And I might as well now, you'll see me getting up in the middle of the night, because I know I'm not going to get back to sleep. So I might as well just go to and start doing something that's productive. And okay.
Perfect, thank you. Sarah?
Again, for me, the biggest challenge I've had, I grew up in a mining town, and our guidance counselor never told us you could start your own business. I hope that's changed now, so you're either going to be a doctor or a teacher. So I didn't really have that, but I always had ideas. And so for me, I actually had to start writing down my business plan. So I've had lots of ideas for businesses in the golf industry, not in the golf industry. And now I make a point of writing all of them down. So I probably have 6 or 7 other business ideas sitting in my bedroom, waiting to and they percolate there, and that's great. When I have more time to not be in my business, but work outside of my business. So for me, I think it's getting the guts to finally do it, take the leap of faith, and I don't think having 3 small young children, it was ideal, but luckily for me, it's panned out. And I think my biggest challenge, and I did go back, I've taken some courses here at the Mount, was on sales and marketing. I've never had to sell anything in my life. So that to me was a big fear, being rejected, and sort of, you know, having your networking and going out and meeting people, and that was all scary in the beginning. So, and I learned that every day, how to do it better. So those were some of my challenges.
So as I answer this question about the greatest challenge over my career is, I think it's important when I'm looking at my career, is I started as a visual artist. I'm going to, for sake of argument, call myself an individual entrepreneur, meaning that I was making artwork and I was trying to sustain myself as an artist. So I didn't have staff and payroll to meet. I had rent to meet. That was sort of it, rent and surviving. But then the transition to now is now we have 40 plus employees and we have 4 locations and a big operation with payroll obligations, and so we have a lot going on. So, but the one challenge always, if I'm looking over the span of my whole career, and I'm sure you'd agree, I mean, this is sort of the big thing as entrepreneurs, is change and growth. Change and growth. Because you want to grow, everyone wants to grow. I mean, what Costa did over 10 years with all these businesses is to say, well, then I opened a restaurant, then opened another restaurant. I can't even imagine how difficult that was. We sort of went from a staff of 6 to 32 in 2 days to open up at the library, but that was the same, if you will, restaurant with the same branding, let alone other things. Growth is really difficult. And what happens when you grow is you need to change the way you do things. And as you change, you continue to grow. But this was always something, dialing it back to when I was just myself, responsible for just myself, change and growth. Victoria and I always talk about this, is we sort of search to be in a comfort zone. And the comfort zone for us is we have enough money coming in that we can hit our mortgage payments. We're not too stressed with work. The phones aren't ringing at 11:30 at night because people are calling in sick the next day, and we get this like little pocket of comfort zone. But then we realize that, you know, the reason we are entrepreneurs is that we love challenge and change. So the biggest challenge for us has been dealing with change and growth and managing that growth and change. You're all here in university studying business, public relations, and at some point you've made a switch to where you are today, and you're going to pivot, make a switch onto other things. And whenever there is change, hopefully it's for growth, but it's difficult. Any relationship that we've ever had, when we end one relationship to start a new one, it's really difficult, but hopefully it's for the best. So that's been the biggest challenge, and continues to be the biggest challenge, and likely will continue to be the biggest challenge.
Thank you. Costa, what can students do now to better themselves in the future for future success?
I think one of the things that I would recommend that you do is get involved with a lot of different associations, especially the ones that interest you. You can go out there and you can volunteer, whether it is with youth, with coaching teams, with sitting in associations, with just becoming a lot more aware of the business environment. If you want to open up a business at some point to become an entrepreneur, you need to know a little bit of everything. And then you're going to put those skills that you have when you own your own business in order to save you money. So you may not become an accountant, but if you're volunteering for an association and you're sitting on a board and they're looking for a treasurer, ask to take that treasurer position to teach yourself on how to look at balance sheets, on how to look at income statements, how to do comparisons, so that if it ever comes on your lap, that you're not really new at it, you're looking at it. So you're always teaching yourself new things. It's about expanding your horizons. It's about going to social events. It's about meeting people, talking with people, ideas and things. What do you think of this? Trying new things. So I think if you start setting yourself and positioning yourself in all over the place, and getting little bits of information and knowledge from everyone around you, I think it'll help you guide you in what you really want to do in life, or where you want to be. But you know, get yourself out there. There's a lot of volunteer positions that are going to teach you a lot about the business environment.
Thank you. Debbie, do you mind taking the next one?
I was going to say, I couldn't have said it better. Absolutely. One thing I learned coming out of academics, you learn a lot of great stuff, but until you put it into practice, I didn't fully internalize a lot of what I learned going through my academic years. So the more you can put yourself out there to do some real world volunteering, perhaps even exploring your business idea at a very small scale, getting out and talking to people, trying to figure out what your value proposition is, how you're going to sell that, learning as much as you can about finances, because that is huge. And no matter what business, you need to understand that well. Patents, trademarks, there's so many of those different areas that can be overwhelming. But the more you can go into it in baby steps by getting involved through other organizations and getting some of that real world hands-on experience that helps you internalize it, I think that's going to be a great factor in propelling you forward when you are ready to open doors for your own business.
Chris, if you want.
I'm not going to reiterate those points because they're so good, so I'll say something a little bit different. It's a little cliche to say, you know, what can you do to prepare yourself for the future? Well, I think the one thing is you always hear from business people, you know, you need to do what you love, but that's easier said than done if you're not quite sure what you really want to do. But I will say this, I don't know cost how many employees you've had over the past decade in total. I can say that with Pavia, even in a short period of time, we've had hundreds. And one of the things I see is, as a trait, is there's a lot of people work really hard to not work hard. And I have friends that have done this throughout their lives. So what can you do to prepare yourself for future success? Is work hard. And that's easier said than done. How many times do you have people say, oh yeah, I got a job, it's great, I don't have to do anything, and I get like 12 bucks an hour and I don't have to do anything. Okay, that's great. I have friends that went through their 20s that way and into their 30s and now are in jobs where they don't really have to do anything and they don't have to work that hard, but surprise, surprise, how do they feel about the job they're in? You know, they've kind of looked back 20 years later and go, how did I get here? It's because you worked really hard to not work really hard at something. So what I would suggest is, you know, what you can do to prepare now is when you get involved with all these things that you're going to get involved with or that you're involved with now, or even being in school right now, look, I remember looking back in university and I'd scrape by with like a B or a B plus, or, you know, maybe I could BS my way into an A minus, but I worked pretty hard to not have to work at these things. Whereas if I had to put the effort in, I think I would have been a lot further ahead. And had I put more effort into my 20s on things, working hard. So what I would suggest, I guess, is what you can do to prepare now for future success is start being successful now. And a big part of that is whatever you're getting involved with, work really hard at it. And if you don't really want to work hard at it, then maybe don't be involved with it and flip and switch into something else you really want to put some time, effort, and energy into.
Yes, that's all good advice. I think for me, my sort of advice might be, you know, if you really know what you're worth, and everything that you do, every experience that you have is sort of that new layer of education that'll take you somewhere. And I always found when I started my business, I didn't really know what I was worth, what my time was worth. I'm selling a service, I'm not selling a product. So you want to give some thought to that, because it's important for customers that are going to be buying from you, that you're setting yourself up to get what you're worth. So, and my advice is write everything down. I've had lots of probably ideas. They might have been stinky ideas, but write it down and write down everything that you do, because it's important to, when you look back, you have a pretty good resume already that'll help you along. So,
Thank you very much. A couple of you mentioned, and most of you agreed, that getting involved and staying active outside of school is very important. Can you recommend any specific organizations, clubs, groups, or that you would recommend for students to get involved with? And Sarah, if you don't mind, we'll start with you.
So first, as a women in business, a Center for Women in Business is a good place. The Chamber of Commerce, Toastmasters, those are sort of, I think students can be involved with that at no charge. But look for, and then also within your industry, whatever that industry you're going to work in, become active in board, taking a board position or volunteering in the sector you want to maybe work in or maybe not. So I'd say, look at some business opportunities where, they're hosting, classes and courses that you can sort of improve yourself at. So that's where I would start.
Chris?
So, likewise, there's lots of organizations I guess I could recommend in Center for Women in Business or Center for Entrepreneurship Education Development, SEED. I think really specifically, though, is putting yourself in organizations, again, that will challenge you and help you to grow. So not just signing up for a business society because you can put it on your resume, but if you're going to sign up for that business society, really push yourself to get involved. And if there's an executive position, try to become a member of that executive. And I will say, my partner's Victoria, her son Alex is in second year university right now. And he was someone that wasn't involved with anything. And I found that hard to believe because I was young, I was involved with everything. I was involved with sports and basketball, and I was involved with student council at the same time. And in university, I was in student union, and I was in intramurals. So I just was involved with everything, and that's how I lived. Alex was involved with nothing, and everything is really stupid, and why I don't want to do that. Second year university, it sort of clicked, and he decided that he was going to start getting involved with things, but I give him full credit, and I really admire. He's getting involved with what he wants to get involved with. So he got involved with Model UN. He's studying political science at St. Mary's, which is awesome. But he also went to the chair of his department and asked if there was any research they could do in the field of political philosophy, because that's what he's interested in. And lo and behold, there was, and no one had asked to help with it, and he got a small stipend. He's getting paid a few $100s to do a few $1,000s worth of work, and he's treating it like a leather course. So I guess it's not necessarily to recommend that you get involved, or what you get involved with, is that you get involved and really be strategic in what you're picking.
Debbie?
In addition to all the organizations already mentioned, which are wonderful, a few more that I think particularly in most of your age ranges you might want to check out is the Futurepreneur Canada program. They have some great, not just financial assistance, but assigned mentoring and other opportunities to help you. If anyone is looking at the tech space in particular, if you haven't already discovered Volta Labs on Barrington, you need to. They have some fantastic programs and everything from free legal advice, accounting advice, to full-on startup accelerators. So that's certainly something to check out.
There's no specific organizations that I would recommend that you go to. I think if you just look at your world and then try to find organizations within it that need your help. A lot of times when I was your age, I would think, who would want to just sit and have me on their board? Well, you are intelligent and you're hardworking, and that's what they want. They want your ideas. Because any time an idea comes from you, it's fresh. Because people like me, my ideas are 30 years old. I can sit there with a lot of my staff and I'm getting some really good ideas from them. And then on top of it, as somebody has said before here on the panel, that take charge on it. Ask for responsibility. It's okay for you to make a mistake, and it's okay to learn. Use it as a learning, but enjoy what you do. So for me, I've always gone to, my soccer, my athletics, whether it's helping with kids or whatever, the Greek associations because of my background, because they need help. And then on top of it all, I was learning a lot because people get involved in those associations that you can learn from. And those people that own businesses, and from that, there was accountants and there was lawyers, and And we learn every day. So if you just get yourself involved, regardless of what the organization or association is, they do need you.
Thank you very much. So in your opinion, what is the most essential skills required of individuals wanting to pursue a path of entrepreneurship? And Chris, if you don't mind.
This is, and I saw the questions before we arrived today, and this is a really difficult one. So I mean, obviously I'm going to speak from my opinion, but if I look at Victoria, who is the other owner of Pavia, she just wouldn't be on this panel discussion today. She does not like speaking in public. And I don't mind speaking in public at all. So as much as I would say, you know, speaking in public, it's a really great skill, you need to have it. Well, she doesn't have that skill, and she's one of the finest entrepreneurs I know. She is, she's an amazing mother. She's an amazing CEO of the business. She's tough as nails, but while at the same time being tough, is she's so gentle and kind to people. And I don't have those, that's not me. Those aren't the skills I have. And I admire them greatly in her. So I guess I just wanted to put that out there. But I think that the biggest skill you have to have, and Costa touched on it quickly, is thick-skinned. I remember a few days before we opened Pavia in Herring Cove, there was a guy that came in, and I tell this all the time when I speak, but I think it's worth repeating, is he came in and he gave me his business card, and he went, okay, so when this place fails, I'd really like to open up a little convenience store up here, so here's my card and give me a call. And it's funny now looking back on it, but that was the truth. And as much as that, then that wasn't a one-off, because the first few weeks we were open, anyone that did happen to walk through the door, which was few and far between, would say, so do you think this place is going to work? I mean, that was the question. I mean, how do you answer that? And then as we got into fall that year, they said, so you're going to close during the wintertime, right? You're not going to open. You know, and I think, but if it isn't that, it's still, years later, it's like, well, how are you managing growth? Are you going to be able to manage growth? Oh, with catering, I mean, you're doing, you know, catering's 40% of your business right now. How are you going to manage that? How's that going to work? So the whole time, I think thick-skinned is one of those things. But can't we all say that those are just one of those things in life, whether you're an entrepreneur or whether you're the VP finance at a university or whether you're an accountant working in a firm? I guess having a thick skin is one of those skills that I think, whether you get into entrepreneurship or not, thick skin, definitely a great skill to have.
Debbie?
I would say, in addition to thick skin and an ability to handle rejection well, because that will happen, tenacity and perseverance. Nobody becomes a success overnight. You're going to have to work hard for it. You're going to get a lot of no's and rejections and a lot of on-support of connections along the way. And you've got to, if you really want it, you've got to persevere through that. Believe in your idea and go all in.
I sat on a panel a while ago, and there was a colleague of mine, and we were both, it was similar to this, and I said passion. For me, I'm into it for passion. I can tell you that every one of my customers that comes in, every one of my guests, I like to look at in the face, and I want them to smile at me and say, yeah, we've had a good meal, but we've enjoyed the lamb, the saganaki, or we had this, the atmosphere, everything is great. If this is the wine that I'm going to give you, I want to hear that it's the best wine that you've had. There's a story behind it. That's the reason I do it. I'm not really interested on what my bank account looks like at the end of the day if my customer walks out smiling. You'll never have to worry about it. So if you don't have passion about what you want to do, if you choose to do something and you have passion towards it and people will see it, it'll be interpreted in the product that you're giving them. So I think if you know that that's what you're doing it for. So in that panel that I sat, this person could sell ice to an Eskimo. I can't sell ice to an Eskimo. I can't, if I see an idea, what drives me is not money. I'm not driven by making millions and millions and millions. If I see an idea, I like it, yeah, I think you can make money. And if it doesn't do anything for me, I won't do it. That's just me. I wish I was the other way around, because there's a lot of good ideas out there that I know I could make money at, but that's not what drives me. So if you determine that, if you have passion and that's what you live on, and then you want to create, whether it's a When you open up a restaurant with a certain concept and you want to, the passion, all the passion is around making that product the best. Or if you decide that you're opening up an old age home and you know that there is a need for an old age home, and if I get 100 rooms in here, and if I charge everybody $7,000 a month, and I do this and that, and you start doing the numbers, for me that doesn't work. But there's two types you can have, either the passion way, or you can just look at your numbers, it's all black and white, and you can create a product and make money. So those are the two avenues that I see. So you got to have passion. Now, I'm not going to mention the hard work, because as Chris said earlier on, if you think that you're going to get anywhere without hard work, you're kidding yourself. 99% of the people work hard. That 1% that you hear about is the person that may not work as hard, but still they're flourishing and so on. So hard work has got to be a part of it. I'm the first person at work. I'm the last one in. This morning when I got up, I closed up last night, and I was at the restaurant for a meeting for 8 o'clock in the morning, and I forgot to set the alarm. But you know what? It was only me I had to answer to, right? So, but I was thinking to myself, how many nights have I closed and gotten up the next morning? And still, this is 16, 17 years later of being in the industry, that you still always have to work hard. Because if you don't, you're going to lose it. Thanks.
Essential skills, I mean, we've all mentioned, you guys have done a good job of mentioning it. I work from, yes, passion driven, but I also look at the stance of when I'm delivering my service, I want to make the person better. So I've sort of found a niche, and I think that's important. You know, if you're going to be, whatever industry you're going to be, you find that that piece that you can carve out for your own, and that really becomes sort of a reflection of yourself or your culture or beliefs. And I think another one too is, you know, the adaptability, the willingness to change. You know, when there is a door open, you need to quickly assess that and see if it's an opportunity or maybe it's just a waste of your time and money and effort. So those are kinds of that decision making becomes really important in knowing, you know, again, where your business is driven from. Is it money, passion, or making the clients better, and going from there. So.
Thank you very much. And we have one last question before we open it up to the audience for questions. So, Debbie, if you don't mind, if you could give your 20-year-old self advice, what would you say?
Besides maybe doing a double minor in business and computer science during my undergraduate, that would be really helpful now. My best advice to my 20-year-old self would be believe in yourself and don't be afraid to ask for help along the way, whether that be help in mentoring, making connections, or even in getting those first set of sales. People are far more willing to help you than you might realize, and don't be intimidated to ask.
Thank you. Costa?
Multitasking. I like a lot of people always do the things that they've always done because they know like they like them and so on. How would you know if how do you know if you don't like Greek food if you've never tried it? Right? Can you imagine what you guys are missing? So I'd say multitask, go and do different things, play different sports, be in different organizations. But I think that the biggest one that I'd say, don't be afraid to lose it, especially at your age. Why would you? It's okay to try something. If you get an idea and you need to invest $10, $15, $20, $30,000 on whatever, you know, find a way, get the money, try something new. Because I got to tell you, I'm 54 years old. If you're 54 trying to start, it's a lot more difficult than trying to start at 25 when you finish university after a few years of working. So try it, and then don't be afraid to lose. And if it doesn't work, it doesn't work. Then you've learned it's still a good experience for you, and you move on, and you can try other things. But a lot of people stop at trying things because, oh my God, $20,000, where am I going to get it from? Well, there's ways to get it out there. If you have a good idea, just get out there, and you can find money.
Thank you. Sarah?
Advice, I sit here and I've actually written a few exams in this room, and I was telling Debbie a story. when I went to university, I had no money, drove a $150, $200 car that actually caught fire on the Bedford Highway one day, and then I was out of car and had no money, and I worked hard. I went and found a job, and so I've always, I've always worked hard, and I think, Chris has mentioned it too. It's really important to work hard at what you want to do, and we didn't wake up one morning and go, this is what I'm going to do. I'm going to own this business. Again, we looked at the opportunities in front of us and tried to make the best of it, and yeah.
Thank you. And Chris?
Well, there's a lot of advice I'd give 20-year-old Christopher that I am not going to share with this group today. If I was sitting with myself in my 20s, I think the one thing I'd say is paint, Christopher, paint. Just paint. No, just paint. Keep painting. Because I heard the guidance counselor, not one guidance counselor told me, you should think about going to NASCAD. I had the highest mark in all of the high schools on Peninsula Halifax in art, and no one said go to NASCAD. So the advice I would have given myself was paint. And incidentally, it's just I give myself that advice all the time now. I just wish I had given it to me more when I was in my 20s. But I will flip it around too and say that if 20-year-old Christopher was sitting with me now in my 40s, it would be, you're okay. Just keep going. You're okay. Just keep going. Don't worry so much. You worry so much. Because I don't know, in my 20s, I had this ability to, like what Costa said, was I just put myself out there and I didn't worry. I was in the ring sparring against guys that I never should have been in the ring with. And but I did, because I just thought, yeah, I can do that. Or I got myself in organizations and I had no business being involved with or getting involved with politics. So I'd flip it around too. So I'd also say, if you're in your 20s right now, there's some advice maybe you're just not taking right now that's in you. So I would also listen to your heart sometimes, and mine would have been paint, paint, paint.
Thank you very much, panelists, for answering all of the questions we prepared for today. We now have the opportunity for students in the audience to ask questions to our panelists. Does anyone have any questions? Yes?
To stay?
So just so I can repeat the question to the NSCC students, the question was for Costa specifically, and he was asking if there's any specific reason why he chose to stay in Nova Scotia.
So when as I said before, my father is a minister, is a priest. So when he was ordained in Toronto, his first posting was here. I had a couple of scholarships, soccer scholarships to go, and one of them was at St. Mary's. So when I came here, I think that because of my sports background, Halifax was a lot, even my position at Moosehead Breweries, I think I received it because of my sports background and people knew who I was. And so I've created this, I guess I created a brand for myself. So once I came back from Greece from playing, then I was able to land a really good position with Moosehead Breweries and further again building my brand. So when I opened the restaurant, a lot of people knew who I was, so they were coming to visit, so it made my venture was, I guess it gave it some legs, it gave it a little more to stand on. Now, having looked at it at that time, if we were spending about, let's say, $700 to $1 million per property, then $3.5 to $5 million expenditure, I have to stay in Halifax. Because there's nobody that's, unless you're a Greek with the aspiration of owning a Greek restaurant, there's nobody that's going to come out and buy a Greek restaurant from me. And that's a good question that you pose, because a lot of times I know that I can take my properties today and I can take them to Toronto, and the number of people that would be serving and the amount of money that I would be making would be a lot more. But I've created a niche for myself, and that's why I've stayed. Yeah, thank you.
Thank you very much. Do we have any other questions? Okay. Well, thank you very much, everyone, for attending today. We are so appreciative of you coming in, your insight and expertise serves as a huge asset to all our students today. If everyone could give them a round of applause for coming today. Thank you so much, guys. Before you all leave, if you are here for the Learning Passport program, please either see Miriam or Colleen for your stamp on your way out. Thank you very much.